Most of us who love riding bikes will probably at some stage suffer illness or injury that keeps us off the bike for a prolonged period of time. It was my turn for this in this second half of last year, and I thought it might be useful to look at my journey since and hopefully convince some of you that you need to be definitely more patient than I was and have expectations that are way more realistic than mine were. For those who regularly watch my videos or follow me on Facebook, you'll know the level of self-inflicted over-ambition I've suffered so far this year. But if you're new to this, here's a summary so you can compare to your own situation. It does include a few references to previous videos, which if you think is just a cynical attempt to get you to watch more of my content, you're probably right. But it also helps to illustrate the point. And you might actually just enjoy seeing me suffer as I had my cycling ass kicked several times. My issue then was an injured back last summer, which kept me off the bike for around 10 weeks until it was eventually made bearable with nerve-blocking medication until such time as I had my surgery. Enough for me to tackle a much-anticipated 14-day cycle across France in late September. That was a real struggle fitness-wise due to all the time off the bike, and my back and leg barely held up. The glorious event though is depicted in 14 short films on the channel. It was a wonderful feeling to complete it, but it was the taste of things to come as I was about to face another long time off the bike. Surgery at the end of October saw these screws fixed to my spine to hold it all together. Remarkably, the surgeon said after 4 weeks I could begin gentle cycling again, but I was so exhausted and ill from the after effects and also withdrawal symptoms from the addictive drugs. It would be a sunny New Year's Day before I hauled my sorry ass onto the bike again and enjoyed a flat 30 miles, but I have to say, still felt pretty tired afterwards. I knew I needed a target, so I entered a Pedal Britain Wales end-to-end 3-day tour at the end of June, starting in 2 days' time actually. Something to be aware of if your layoff has involved surgery is post-operative fatigue. For most, this will last several weeks, but if your surgery has been quite invasive like mine was, I've learned that for some, it can take as much as 2 years to subside. I find myself in that category, and I'm still feeling I'm needing an early bedtime even when I haven't been riding a bike, which is so unlike me. Plus, I'm often needing an afternoon nap. Again, something I never did before. Recovery from longer rides is much longer than before too. So, with 3 consecutive hard days cycling to come in Wales at the weekend, there's a good chance of photographs of me asleep face down in my dinner, I reckon. In early March, I went to Mijas in Spain for a week of cycling, a place I'd cycled before, and after a couple of months worth of club rides, I really felt ready for it and planned 6 increasingly long rides across the week. How wrong I was. I managed 2 rides only, although in beautiful terrain, but I struggled with both of them, and these films are on the channel for you to laugh at. I realised soon after what my mistake was. I thought that as I'd got away with 14 days cycling in France after 10 inactive weeks, well, I'd had 2 months back in the saddle since January after a further 12 weeks inactivity after the surgery. So I thought I'll be okay. The fact is, the first 10 weeks of inactivity would still be in the system and having a cumulative effect with the further 12 weeks. Plus on top of that, the fatigue from the operation was way more significant than I thought. After that calamitous trip, my fitness progress was confirmed as woeful at the end of March at the Puncher Sportive, here in this film. 60 miles and 4,000 feet of climbing was still too bloody hard. A few weeks later, I did a club ride to Hunstanton and clocked my longest ever ride of 129 miles But the second half was almost entirely flat, so I wasn't getting too cocky. I came away feeling tired for days again afterwards, but at least I'd realised I was definitely there with the distance, but climbing was really wearing me out still. Which brings me, a week later, to probably the biggest monumental slice of overambition in this whole saga. Why back in January did I think it was appropriate to enter one of England's toughest sportives, the Yorkshire Dales struggle? Well, actually, this is why I did it, I think.
The reason I changed my mind is because I'm weak. And I'm susceptible to peer pressure.
I heard that.
That didn't go well, and this short film, showing exactly why it didn't go well, will be on the channel next week. 4 weeks later, I've just completed Ride to the Sun, a fantastic overnight event, 101 miles from Carlisle to the sunrise on Cranman Beach near Edinburgh. Although nothing steep in the way of climbing, but it was an absolutely different and wonderful event. It's now 3 days later. From getting back from Edinburgh, I'm still a little tired, but I think I'll be ready to start the Wales Challenge in Chepstow on Friday. When you're recovering like I've been, it's important to be aware that your improvement isn't linear. There'll be ups and downs, a surge in improvement 1 week, then weeks where you feel you've gone backwards. Our bodies are just complex things. There's also the doubt that invades your thoughts, that your fitness will never come back as it was. For me, the after effect of sciatic pain that went down my leg, through the trapped nerves, have meant that after 7 months, I still have some numbness in my left foot and a sore big toe. It's natural then to be concerned that you might have to live with this forever and it'll never get better, but I'm assured it will come back eventually. I can't wait for that to be so though. It still preys on my mind. You might also get left field stuff because you might not be walking right, sitting right, or whatever, because you're compensating for the bits of your body that aren't functioning properly yet, and you're overworking something else. My latest spanner in the works was revealed just yesterday. A few weeks ago, I stubbed my left big toe in the house, the one that was a bit sore anyway, and on the foot that's a bit numb. So I blindly assumed it's sore because, well, it already was. But now the numbness has subsided a bit, the pain's got worse, and an X-ray yesterday confirmed I've actually fractured my bloody toe. Luckily, it hurts less when I'm cycling than when I'm walking, but it's just another knockback when I really could do with a body that's firing on all cylinders in Wales on Friday. My feelings on my own recovery are that I totally misunderstood the combined effect of surgery after effects, lengthy periods of inactivity, and periods of feeling dreadful through drug withdrawal. And although I always subscribe to advise everyone to have plans, goals and targets, in this situation, it really wasn't a clever move committing to arguably England's toughest sportive when I'd only just got back on the bike after surgery. My advice is to take the recovery period a month at a time, so you don't end up with a list of calamitous waste of time events and cycling holidays through overambition. It does take much longer than you think to build your fitness back up. My last bit of advice though is to grit your teeth and keep going. It can be demoralising when you're knackered after a ride distance you previously found easy, or when you're on an event and your mates are disappearing into the distance on climbs that you would have previously led them up. It's too easy to let this piss you off so much you don't bother facing it, you don't bother riding. Well, it doesn't take a genius to suss that this would just make it a longer transition.
So just beware that these situations really can affect your mental health too, which I talk about in more detail in this video also on the channel.
I'm now over a year since I hurt my back and when my problems began. And I'm still not at the level I was back then, but I have Portugal end to end in my sights. But much more sensibly this time, I've got another 15 months to get ready for that one. I hope this has been useful or of interest. And why not take a look at my website, obbcycling.com, check me out on Facebook, and subscribe to the channel to take a look at some of those films I mentioned by clicking on this yellow icon here, and a couple of the films are here to get you started. Thanks for watching, happy cycling, and I'll see you soon.